Tottenham till I die, Spurs Diehards. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Spurs Diehards. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die, Spurs Diehards. Tottenham till I die.
Good evening, everybody everywhere. This is Spurs Diehards Tottenham Till I Die. That was a little bit more Metallica, a little bit less Kill Switch Engage. I must be getting old. We're back again. I missed last week. The meltdown has ensued. I'm here with my two regulars, and we're going to talk and discuss all things Tottenham. Adrian, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Looking forward to get into it. I mean, we're all waiting for Spurs to do something above the ordinary in the transfer window, because normally most of our windows are underwhelming, and a lot of the fan base, if you listen to them now, we've got 2 months to go, are completely underwhelmed already. So it'll be interesting. I think things will start hitting up after the 1st of July when you're in the next financial year. But I'm sure you'll get into it, Drew.
Yes, I'm sure we will. The meltdown has ensued. It's 89 degrees where I am, which I think is about somewhere between 25 and 28 degrees in old money. I think same again where Steve Silver is. Steve, the regular, how are you, sir? How's it going?
Not too bad. It's been a long week, but I've been looking forward to this all week. And Adrian, by the way, you're right. I did actually enjoy that intro right there. It kind of took me by surprise a little bit, but I think you guys have impeccable taste when it comes to intros. So kudos to you guys.
Well, I suppose Metallica are very similar to Spurs in that it's sad but true. The transfer window has started very much as we expected it to, I think. I want to say a quick shout out to everybody joining us. We've got 30 people here across platforms already. I'm just going to say hello to a few guys in the chat. B Knight here as usual. We got Milton Nabrega. Thank you very much for joining us. We got Spurs GCTV, Mr. Regular. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Let's just get into it. Obviously, the second transfer window is open. The first one being for teams, mainly due to the Club World Cup, so it was split up a little bit. But now we've got the open window, I think, until basically the day before the season starts, or at least it ends before the season starts, which is at least a nice touch this year. Because the one thing I can't stand is getting the season underway with 2 or 3 games, and you've got the looming possibility of transfers over your head, and you still haven't got your team quite sorted. So I do like that. What's that, buddy?
The transfer window goes to 1st of September, and the league season starts on the 16th on the Saturday. So you're still going to have 2 weeks of football.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought somebody had mentioned earlier that it ended before the season started, so I apologise. I apologise. Well, let's get into it. What are we thinking at the moment? We'll start with you, Steve. I mean, what's your general sense? I mean, everybody's obviously frustrated with us not doing much business. I mean, we've obviously done some, but there's a couple of names that are floated about that I think people thought that we would already have but done by now. A certain Brian Mbeumo and a certain Eberiche Eze amongst, or two of the names amongst a few. I mean, what's your general thoughts? And we'll start, obviously, because this is sort of cropped up today. We'll start with the Eberiche Eze deal. But where do you want to go with it? What are you thinking?
Well, I think for me, this is exactly what I expected, 100%, right? And I think we've kind of understood this for the last month that anything big is not going to happen until after the fiscal year has come to a close. The last thing that Spurs want to do is put any losses on this cycle of PSR. Why not wait till why not wait till that window closes so they can attribute transfer fees and losses to the next side? So I pretty much figured that that Spurs would kind of take their time. Now, granted, they've already done some what I actually think is some pretty good business when you talk about Matisse Tell coming in for 30. They got they got their guy from their center back from the Japanese league for $5 million. And again, they brought in Vuskovic, who they got last year. Mason Millia is coming in the January window. So I mean, they've been doubling down on the youth quite a bit. And again, I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I think that kind of goes along with the theme of what we've seen over the last 3 summer transfer windows anyways. And this has been, Spurs have made a commitment to the youth. And that sure has continued to play out this summer. And so I would expect that, number one, transfers do not happen in the scope of 24 hours. Most of these deals usually take about a month. And my feeling was that most of these negotiations started right after the season ended, whereas a team like Liverpool with Florian Wirtz, I'm sure that was something that they had probably started negotiating last January as well too. And so when the window opened up, they were able to finalize some of these deals and some of those type of things. But Tottenham operates largely in the same manner as they've always operated. They're never going to win the transfer window as far as flashy names. They're going to do the business that they feel is right by their football team, whether you like it or not. This is going to be something that I expect. Whether it be Eberici, Brian Mbemba, whoever that top target is, it's probably going to happen sometime in July. I cannot see them dragging this out all summer. As we remember last year, Dom Solanke didn't come in until about a week before the season started. I can't see them dragging their feet that long. But that being said, I would just assume that because of the financial business that is going to conclude as the PSR window closes, and reopens a new cycle on July 1st, I would probably just assume you're going to start seeing signings happen in July.
I know. I think as well. I don't know. This is the thing. There's so many permutations. There's so many different or slightly different nuances and ways that teams do things. I think I'm right in saying that Liverpool are in a different financial year as well. I think I don't know how it works. They pulled theirs up or they pushed theirs forward. So they're actually, I think, in their 11th or 13th month. So they're able to do things earlier in the window that teams, like we say, teams sort of wait until the 1st of July to do. So.
And I also think it's worth remembering that last season, the only move that they did in the summer window was bring in Federico Chiesa on a free last year. They didn't do any business the last summer window, and so they were able to to withhold funds from last year to this year. So they just operate in a smarter manner. That's all. Yeah.
Oh, Adrian, I'll put this one to you because it sort of goes off the back of what Steve says. I mean, he's sort of saying, not to put words in his mouth, but sort of the club are acting. The club are acting sort of the way in which he expected to act. But and I have to agree because Tottenham be Tottenham and Tottenham do Tottenham things, and you kind of it was what I expected. But then if you add the layer of the video that Vinay and Daniel Levy came out with, when he's turned around now and said that we want to win the Premier League, we want to win the Champions League, I think people have just grabbed onto that last sentence or those words and started running with it. They've applied those to what they've seen in the transfer market currently, and they've basically said, what the hell are we doing? So, I mean, Adrian, what are your thoughts?
2 things. I mean, now Levy has actually put his feet to the fire on this one, so he's got to come good on it. So we have to invest in the squad. And the other things with all the bullshit you get around during every transfer window from low tier media, presenting one thing one day and reversing what we're saying the next. Yeah, the player's coming. No, he's not. Now he's going. And it's always going to a rival to wind the fans up. No, he's not. He's coming to us, right? Things like that. Well, one thing that everyone seems to be missing out on the fact is like our players don't come back until the latter part of next week. I think it's about Friday or Saturday. Same for other clubs, right? So there's no way clubs have been in talks with players if they're still on holiday. You don't bring them up when they're on holiday, right? Unless you've got someone who's at the end of his career is desperate to get a club or something like that. So I take a lot of that with a pinch of salt. I also take to the fact that, like, our recruitment team, we've got this Japanese guy, and I think we'll probably talk about him later, but our recruitment team should have been working all season on compiling a list of players, what we need in what positions. So unless you come around to the transfer window now and there's an opportunity signing, like Real Madrid want to get rid of those star players to cut their wages bill down, we shouldn't even be looking at other people. So when all these new players get linked with us, I get the links with the French club Lyon, they've been relegated, go and cherry pick from them. I get that. That's opportunity, right? I get that. But apart from that, it's the usual mainstays. What I'm surprised with, what fans should be surprised with over the Eberechi rumours in particular, has been brought up by someone here. Good. Thank you for bringing it up. Is that we all know what a great player as he is. Every other club knows it. So how comes no other clubs have been in for him? Has he already said to Spurs he's agreed to deal? Is he agreed to come? There's a lot to say that there are lots of rumours. There's rumours about other things, but there are rumours that he's actually said to come. But if Man City or Arsenal are interested in him now, why haven't they laid down markers before? Clubs like that normally do, right? And they haven't. So I just find that a bit surprising. I don't know what your take on it is. My attitude when it comes to the transfer window, when it's finalised, like the Mbuemo or whatever, if a player doesn't want to come to my club, I don't got to cry about it. I mean, I don't want him anyway. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it all pans out. But at the moment, it's just like it's sort of boring. It's frustrating. It's underwhelming as well. We'll see. Like, and the rumours that we got no money. Well, every time there's a transfer window, we've got no money. So and we still bring players in. And one or two may leave. And now we've actually got a few players that are worth a few quid, maybe not fortunes, that we can actually get a bit more money in than nothing like we've got from in the past. So, so I'm not panicking about this window. I've seen it all before. So I'm going to wait and see. I would have thought that July the 1st, which is next time of our show on a Tuesday, that from July the 1st to the 19th, we need to be doing business, because on the 19th, we've just put in our first pre-season game away to Reading, right? That's been announced recently. So you'd think that in the next fortnight, well, it's more, what is it? It's the first, it's like in the next 15, 16 days, I'd expect us to get a couple of signings in, you know. So we'll see, won't we? We'll see if I'm right or wrong, and we'll see who we get. So back to you, Drew.
No, fair play. Kerno Yid just says a big coys. Big shout out to you, Kerno. Coys to you as well. Milton, I'm glad I can pronounce your name right. I really appreciate your name correctly. I really appreciate you logging in, listening in. Kevin Stanbridge, thank you very much. What you expect and what you need to do different things. Yeah, very, very true. Nita's joined us. Hello, Nita. Hope you're doing well, love. Graham saying hi to Nita. We've got Brian Maguire in the show. Audio Artisan popped in. Hello, mate. Good to see you. Good to see you. I don't want to be too cynical. I'm trying not to be, because I have. Well, yeah, this is true. This is true.
Supposed to be cynical.
Well, I've remained quite. I'm trying not to get too caught up in the weeds of it, because I'm concerned a little bit that when my concern is that I'm looking at Thomas Frank coming in, and the idea that we were going to win a Champions League or win a Premier League anytime soon, regardless of what these guys say in their video, is just, it just doesn't make sense with the moves. Like, they're two completely different things, right? What they're saying and what you're seeing just doesn't match up. And I think that Thomas Frank has been brought in because, you know, by all accounts, he's a fantastic coach. And I think he's there because they think that the team is better than 17th, and he's there to get the most juice from the squeeze. Thank you, Sean. I think I pinched one of his sayings. And I'd look at it and I think to myself, Tell's already been bought in and finalised. You've got Odegaard, who didn't really get a chance to shine last year. You've still got Sonny, although potentially he might, he's more than likely going to be out the door. So you're basically saying that you've spent close to 55 million on Tell, who by all accounts plays on the left and comes in on his right foot, which tells me that he's the player that's arguably been brought in to replace Sonny, and with him and Odegaard potentially probably vying for that role on the left. He's already named Solanke in interviews as somebody that he's likely going to enjoy working with and he sees potential in. I don't know how easy it actually is to get Richie out the door. I don't see him bringing in another striker. I think we desperately need somebody to push Johnson on the right. I guess where I'm going with this is I'm struggling to see, it would be lovely to have Mbeumo. I absolutely get. Mbeumo would be perfect, and I think actually would be better suited for us than Eze. So, I don't know, bro.
Listen, here's the thing, Drew, right? And first and foremost, man, fair exchange is no robbery. If you want to lift somebody else's lines, man, have at it. By the way, the juice is always worth the squeeze. But I will say this, that Thomas Frank was brought in here to double down on this youth movement. And when you look at his track record at Brentford and you see the work that he did turning, I guess you can say, unknown prospects into league-wide names. That is something that is what Thomas Frank has been able to bank his reputation on. And when you look at the youth movement that this team has gone under over the last three transfer windows, or the last 4 transfer windows, when you think the age when Van de Ven came in, same thing with Porro, same thing with Christian Romero. Then you look at Gray, Bergvall, Tell, Odegaard, and then you look at Mikey Moore, who's 18 years old now. This team has now built a young core of young players, and this team is committed. And what they wanted was a coach who has a track record of not only developing raw youth into league-wide names, but also being able to punch above their weight with those guys as well too. And I do agree with you. That I think we're seeing a turning of the page with some of these experienced players, Drew. I think the writing has been on the wall exactly what the transfer strategy has been with this team. 100%. I don't think you can dispute that. But by the way, right? So when you hear Daniel Levy and with Vinny talking about wanting to win the Premier League and the Champions League, I think you have to take that tongue in cheek too. Much to when Ange Postecoglou said that he wins things in his second year, it wasn't necessarily taken as a matter of fact, but more tongue in cheek. So it is what it is.
I mean, do you think? Well, based on that, do you think it's really wise for our? No, I get it. I get it, and I think when they say that, they don't mean that it's going to be next year. I'm looking at this as a project, and I'm thinking that this probably, actually finally, this whole rebuild that we've been going through for ages. I don't think we were really, and this, big up to Sava. I mean, he's always said this on his show that we're, rebuilding from what? We were never really. We've never really rebuilt from anything that was, ultimately successful anyway.
You can make the argument rebuilding from the Pochettino era, where it was that close. We were close.
Well,
pretty goddamn close.
Yeah. I mean,
with the team that was built from young players, and they were able to groom into something that was close enough to compete for a Champions League final.
Yeah, no, I'll take that. Quick shout to Paul Brown. Big up. He says, good evening, Adrian, Drew, Stephen, chat. Let's just hope for some half-decent signings and pray for a change in ownership or takeover. And then Milton says something here that I wanted to bring up because it's a great point. that Frank would want a pre-season to see who he wants and who he doesn't. Then he'll look in the transfer market. So assuming make a few signings towards the end of the transfer window. And I get that. The one thing I would say to potentially counter that, Adrian, is that yes, you want to see players. Yes, you want to get an idea of, the vibe of the squad because you haven't immediately been in that environment. But one thing I will say is that, Thomas Frank has been in the Premier League for as long as has been in England for as long as he's been in. He's come across Spurs on a number of occasions. I'm sure he's probably scouted them as opponents. So he would have a decent idea.
Correct.
He would kind of already have looked at them more so than maybe, somebody coming in from abroad, correct?
Yeah. He will know a lot about young players. That was part of his job when he was in Denmark. Apart pre-Brombury, he was with Dingby. He was a coach with Langer, actually. He was a coach with Langer. They're friends. You can see Langer's obviously played a part in getting him into the club. And they work with a lot of the young players in Denmark. And being at Brentford on a tight budget, he would have looked at lots of large young players and all that, because we hadn't heard of Mbuemo. We hadn't heard of even Ollie Watkins. We hadn't heard of, Visser before they come in. And he's done the data analysis, done well. So I think he will know.
Sorry, Adrian. Swim Master, I've started this and I'll come back to it, mate. Sorry. Go on, Adrian. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. He will know. He'll be familiar. Word travels around. If you've got good youngsters, other managers get to know about them. We've had other clubs, Dortmund, the German clubs, and other clubs are sniffing around our young academy players that are on loan at the moment. So Frank will know about them as well. And he may want to have a good look at some of them. I hope he does. But I don't want that to stop him from bringing in at least a couple, 2 or 3 oven-ready players, because we need experience in this side. You've always gone about lack of experienced players that don't have European experience as well. Well, then they've got to be really good if they haven't, And I like the fact that we have been linked with top-class players. I like the fact that Eze and Xavi Simons, who I really like as well, have been linked. And Mbuemo, yeah. I'm not Semenyo's biggest fan, because to me he doesn't score enough goals, in my opinion, whereas Mbuemo does. So I wouldn't, if we want a right wing and we don't get Mbuemo, if he does go to Man United, I want a different winger. I don't want Semenyo. One, I'm certainly not paying 70 mil for him. He's a £50 million player, the goals he scores. And Brentford can afford to dig in if
less than that.
Yeah, even less. Let's be generous, right? No. And there are lots of wingers out there. Not that we haven't got, we've got more than our fair share.
Are you not arguably, with somebody like Mbuemo, would you not be potentially paying a little bit of a premium for the fact? Because if I was Brentford, I'd be saying, all right, let's just, on the assumption that Mbuemo is up for the move. And that's just hypothetical, because I think everything coming out of his camp is that he was a Manchester United fan and he really wants to go and play for him, and he's basically sitting and waiting. So we'll just go on the assumption that his head could be turned. If I was Brentford, I would be looking for potentially a little bit of a premium, because not only have you just let your coach go, or your manager, whatever you want to call him, you're now almost giving him another leg up, because he's now got a general on the field that is essentially going to help at least the right-hand side, the forward line, the right side of the midfield to gel, and in training, obviously, help to understand and convey what Frank wants. So you're essentially... And if you take into account, Brentford are trying to achieve something, even if that is stability, you're giving another team an awfully big leg up. So I would probably be, I would push my luck. And if he's not desperate to go, and if he'd stay there for another year, I'd be quite happy to turn around to Spurs and say, look, unless you wave silly money at us, he's not pushing for a move, and I don't really want to butter your toast.
Well,
so,
let me,
but we'll introduce, just introduce Alan real quick. Alan, hello, mate. How you doing?
Good. Happy Friday, everybody. Doing well.
What's up, buddy?
Good, good. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. That moustache is looking good on you, mate. It's looking very good on you.
It took a few days to get used to not having the beard.
Yeah, you're looking like Pancho Villa now. Get a sombrero. You look like Pancho Villa.
I just want to say, just a big up to Daniel Knight, who's joined in the chat as well. Daniel, good to see you. Swim Master, good to see you. Lisa Davis, obviously, she popped in. No, she popped a little message in. This is hey guys on the panel, all in the chat. Hope you're all good. Much love. Sorry, Adrian, go on, mate. Finish your point.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, like Brentford want more money, and for what Mbeumo done for him, yeah, he's worth more. I mean, like I think they were holding out for 62 mil or something. So if you believe the rumours, but then we paid 65 mil for Solanke, and Mbeumo's worth 65 mil as far as I'm concerned. Right?
Yep.
So Man United, if we don't get him, charge him 70. If we don't get him, and that might be without add-ons. So I mean, Solanke was probably 60 with add-ons. He might have been 55 or 58 with add-ons. We never get to know the figures, So so I think, I mean, I would take Mbeumo, I would, but if he doesn't want to come, move on. I mean, like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes at the club. I mean, we didn't know you've got another left field signing and a Japanese player that's come in. Danso was pretty left field. Bergvall was pretty left field. Langer even got rid of loads of players, right? And like Højbjerg, who we get paid for this year, Gil will go. He got rid of loads, and yet a lot of the fan base were on his case, but they were on everyone's case last season because we had a crap season. Blame was being apportioned everywhere. You know what I mean? So, but it looks like Langer must be Levy and the board are well satisfied with Langer behind the scenes, so he must be doing work. Having said that, Scott Munn's on gardening leave. Mind you, he must have a fantastic garden now, mustn't he? Because he was on gardening leave before he come to us.
That's right.
I mean, like, he must have a real good garden, you know what I mean? Yeah, so, but what has he done? I mean, at least you can think you can assess and evaluate what Lang's done by the amount of players we shifted out last season without bringing players in. But Scott Munn doesn't appear to have done anything. So, but on the player front, I think Mbeumo's worth the 65 mil if we paid that for Solanke. Yeah. So, back to you, Drew.
Alan, well, obviously welcomed you in. What's your initial thoughts? I put it to the guys. I wanted to sort of gauge people's thoughts on the beginning part of the transfer window, just see where they're at with the club. Are you infuriated? Are you melting down because we haven't signed Eze and Mbeumo yet? Just initial thoughts on where you're at the moment.
So my initial thoughts. I guess I'm a little frustrated. I think I join the probably majority of fans. The Newcastle fans, all the fans for all the clubs, I think we're all a little frustrated that it really hasn't been, there's a whole lot of talk, but not a lot of conversation. You know what I mean? Like,
would you expect that to, given the whole financial year thing, I mean, would you expect that to change? Because we are maybe being a little bit hasty. You expect that all to change July 1st once,
Yeah.
Would you be even more frustrated? Would that frustration go to a 10 if by like the 5th, 6th of July we hadn't really made like a couple of moves, or at least looked like we were? Would the infuriation be tenfold?
I think yes. I guess I would be pretty frustrated.
Yes.
I would be pretty frustrated.
Yes.
Now, to answer your question, yes. But I know that there's a lot of stuff that's happening behind the scenes. There's a lot of stuff that we don't see or hear about that is probably worked through during the Premier League season that gets finalized in the summertime. So that's why some things seem like it's happening pretty quick. But then, we say, oh, it happened so quick, but it actually took a long time to put together. What I'm frustrated with a little bit is that we got the Japanese gentleman. I don't remember his name. Takai.
Yeah.
It's Takai.
Oh, it's a Kai. Beam me up, everyone. Yeah. Beam me up. Out of this world, this guy is. Oh my.
He just purchased a kid from Leeds, I think.
Yeah.
A 16-year-old from Leeds. And I guess that's the Leeds kid, not that I know anything about this, the kid. I don't know anything about them. But the fact that we were in for them again is frustrating because that's, again, the whole youth movement. It's Like we already know the answer to this question, which is the question being, should we bring in more youth? The answer is no. We definitely shouldn't be bringing in more youth. We need experience. But it seems like maybe these are the pegs that lower down. These are easier to get to, which is why we're hearing about them so early. I'm trying to temper my frustration with realistic expectation that the majority of the clubs haven't signed big. And whatever one has been signed big, like Brian Mbeumo is going to be going probably to Manchester United. He said he wants to go. Whether or not Manchester United can manufacture that money and pull it out of, the Glazers' pocket, which they probably won't. I don't know where they're going to manufacture the money to be able to afford Mbeumo right after Cunha. But, Cunha is something I think they were working on even when during the season. I don't think that this was something that happened in the summertime only. This is something that just finalized in the summertime. But I think the majority of the business will be done in July. The Eze rumors and whatnot, I think I'm so over these rumors because, every summer we're linked to him since he's been around. And now all of a sudden someone says, oh, he's with Arsenal now. His personal terms have agreed with I'm like, I don't believe anything at this point until someone they've put pen to paper and they were announced as a club player. Other than that, it's like, well, then it's somebody's doing something for clicks.
Yeah, but the reality, and again, and I'll say it again. I mean, when you look at this youth movement, it's not isolated to this summer or last summer. This thing has actually been going on for like 3-4 years now. And the reality is, when you look at the body of work of a guy like Thomas Frank and being able to turn their, Brentford's prospects into household Premier League names that are actually being linked to Manchester United and some of these other clubs, that's exactly why they brought in this youth, because they want to develop those players into where in 2-3 years they're actually ready to kick on and actually being able to be sustainable but also be competitive in the Premier League. That's why they're doing this. And that's the biggest problem with Ange Postecoglou. It's not that he can't do it. It's just he doesn't have a track record of being able to develop youth and getting into the point where they can actually kick on, where they don't necessarily have to go out and buy experience. That's something that Thomas Frank has been able to do over the course of his career. That's the stability of what they're looking to do, and that's why they're continuing to double down on this youth movement. But I do agree with you, Alan, though, that for me, if it's by August 1st, if we haven't at least brought in one player that actually has that Premier League, Champions League experience, that's where I'm going to start to kind of freak out. Like I'll give them the grace period of July, but by August 1st, if nothing has ever happened, and it's still rumors that Eze is, and now he's not, but now he's back in, and now his mom wants him to be in London. These type of things. It's like by August 1st, that's when I'll truly start actually being alarmed. But I just assume that we're going to get at least one in the month of July.
I just remember, wasn't it last summer? We were in the same position. We hadn't signed anyone early on, really, except for I think Timo Werner, I think. And then we went a while without signing anyone, and we were like, oh well, January will hit, and then we'll get going. And then that didn't happen. Or am I misremembering?
I agree with you about the Kuna thing. It's funny, isn't it? The transfers, you can't sort of have one template that suits all. It doesn't work that way. When other clubs moan about us not signing players quickly, because it happens with them as well. Now, you can do a quick deal on someone like a Kevin Danso when very few clubs are interested in, if only us, and you can get the deal done quick. But I agree with you, Alan, on the Kuna thing, because obviously they had to speak to Kuna, like you say, during the season, because you've got to agree, does the player want to come? There's no point getting involved if he doesn't want to come or he's not interested. And so it got to the 1st of June, and then Man United activated his release clause. But he didn't sign to the 12th. So that was 12 days, plus any days before that, when you've got to have some talks. Then it could have took place in a day. They could have took a week. We don't know. And we're not really interested. It's Man United, right? But I'm just saying, it's not as always that straightforward to get a deal done. I mean, I would expect it to have seen, prior to the season ending, something concrete about Eze. I'm not expecting to see anything now about anything. Even talks of Buemo going to Man United. He's still on holiday. He's not going to be back for pre-season to the end of the first week in July. So nothing's going to happen. The transfer window is going to go mental next week after Tuesday, the 1st, the new year. Players are at the end of their contracts. Players got 1 year left on their contract. There's going to be lots more rumours and speculation, as if it isn't bad enough already. But actually, with Buemo and all that, when they're saying, "Oh well, he's going now, it's done," it isn't done. He's still on holiday. You don't know what's in the player's head yet. I mean, Man United were always favourites to get him. We can offer Champions League football. We can match the wages as well, or give him a signing on fee to cover if we don't want to break our wage structure. So it really is wait and see. And I do get the frustration and the lack of patience in their fan base, because I don't think we're any different to any other club in that way. They'll want like to do their business quickly, to know that they're going into a new season, with hope, which, as I've always said, it isn't a strategy hope, but to go into the new season with confidence, So
I pulled this up. Big up Carl Valencia. It's not a name that I'd seen before. It's no one signed big. Terrible take. Talking absolute bollocks, mate. Well, big up Carl. He says Paul, City, Man United all signed players, and I don't. The reason I'm bringing this up, because I don't know this. That's entirely true. I understand that they're making moves. I understand Liverpool have signed big, but we've already said they're in a different financial year to us. City are a different breed, but yes, I get it. Arsenal, I think they've signed Kepa and they're close to Norgard, so that's not entirely true. But yeah, I get where you're coming from, Carl. It's not to say that nobody's made moves, but for the most part, for the swimming pool that we're fishing in, I just don't entirely know that we can be up there with Liverpool and City, because if we were all in for the same player and Liverpool and City said we want you, then every chance that player's going. So while I take the point, I think there's just different teams are doing different things at different levels. But to say that those guys have made big moves, I think there's only a couple of those, and there's 18 teams in the league, and God knows how many across Europe. But big up, appreciate you listening in. Reese Rigg, morning boys, Coys, Reese Rigg, good to see you, mate. Appreciate it. Big up, Liverpool has structure and a well-run football club. Well, there is that. There is that as well.
They won the Premier League last season.
Well, let me ask you. Well, they won the Premier League, and they didn't. They had, what was it? Chiesa on loan as well.
Yep.
So it was just
unreal. That was their entire window. Yeah.
Right. Let me ask you, right, because I'm wondering, and this was just something I was posing in my head. We were pretty good at scoring last year. We were terrible in defence, either through injury or just through our own ineptitude, mistakes. What do we actually need? Let's just say that Thomas Frank's come in. He's this wonder coach who I'm told is gonna just turn us into world beaters. What do we actually need? We've got arguably one of the best back five, like pound for pound. If this was boxing, pound for pound, one of the best back fives probably in the league when they're all on their day. I mean, Porro, what was Frank said, has Trent tendencies. I mean, I don't think anyone's really. I mean, I know the jury's out a little bit on Romero. Some people hate him. Some people love him. I mean, you can't take away from the fact that he's a class footballer, and the way that he passes the ball helps us to progress. Van der Ven, I'll say it. He's arguably becoming one of my favourite players, but I've not seen him in a system that requires him to actually do much in the way of one-to-one man on defending. I've seen him used as a paper merchant to get us out of trouble. So it'll be interesting to see really how Frank adapts those two at centre-back and what he asks them to do, because I think he'll certainly ask them to play differently to what Ange asked them to play. You've got Udogie, who kind of laid down a marker back end of the year, and you can only hope that maybe in the off-season he's just gathered a bit more, a bit more stamina and a bit more fitness, and he can kind of go again, being as he had a horrible off season last season and really just kind of hit the ground running. It's been known that Frank wanted Archie Gray at Brentford. He's called out Bentancur. I think he's called out Berival. So is it a case of him really, really needing, I know I've mentioned earlier that he'll probably have a good idea, but is it really a case of him maybe wanting to get in there with them, integrate his ideas with them, get his coaches with these players on the training field, and then really assess exactly what we need? Because the last thing you want to do, in my opinion, especially being as we are, as frugal as we are with money, you really don't want at this moment in time to, let's say, pull the trigger on it. And some people might call me absolutely bonkers for this take, but I don't think you want to drop 60 to 70 million on an Eze when Frank gets in there, actually has a look, and come the end of the July, he goes, you know what? I really wish we'd have gone with X, Y, or Z instead. Now, I don't know if that might just not be a scenario. I might just be talking hot air. But I just think he's got to, if we hadn't made the change, and if it was still Ange in charge, and he'd already had a real good idea of what he wanted, I would have thought we would have maybe pulled the trigger on a couple more players by now. But you think maybe the change has made the club take a step back and assess what we really have to put our funds towards, if the funds are as light as they are? I'll start with you. Go on, Alan, take it away.
I was just going to say, I think Levy set a precedent that maybe the club wasn't ready to back up. When he said that he wanted to win the Premier League and win the Champions League, suddenly I think it changed the tempo, because it was coming off of that big win in the Europa League. So it's kind of like maybe he got swept up in that wave, because it seems like now we're hearing stories of, the club doesn't have money, and I don't know what's driving all of that. If someone actually has information that they know the club doesn't have a lot of cash on hand and it got leaked out, or it's just they're making an assumption based on the fact that we haven't really done any business, not major business so far. But I think Levy set a precedent that maybe the club wasn't so ready to get behind. Maybe they were planning to slow play it and didn't need Levy to come out publicly and kind of say, we're gonna win it all, basically.
You would think the marketing team, like, surely they look at that afterwards, they film that sort of thing, you play it to everyone in the club, and surely you get some feedback, and a couple of people go, are you really, like, especially Vinay. I think on Sean's show earlier, he mentioned this, big up Sean, Spurs TV show. He said, if you're going to slowly become the public face of the club, your first message shouldn't be that when you genuinely aren't going to back it up. Like, surely you just, as Adrian said, you just put your feet to the fire at that point. Like, what are we doing? What is going on?
Well, is Levy going to be the face of the club? Because
but I'm talking about but Vinay was in that.
Oh, Vinay
was in that. He was in that video as well.
Yeah, he was.
Video message, and he's sitting there. The Red Wine Brothers sitting there, like, everything's great. Adrian, you look like you want to say something. Come on.
Well, it's just that if Levy's come out with those statements, okay, well then for once you're going to have to back the manager, because we know that, all right, this squad will improve with no players, because we know if you tweak the system, you get better results than we had last season, right? Yeah. But we know players will come in. We don't know who will come in as of yet. But we're not going to win the Premier League, we're not going to win a Champions League, right? We're just not good enough with the squad we've got, and so our best chance of this season, going to this season, is getting a European spot and perhaps nicking one of the domestic cups, right? So if Levy really wants to win the Premier League or the European League, like he's saying, the Champions League, then if he can't see that this squad needs quality upgrades, then the guy's completely delusional, and but Vin I will know it. And we've also had Charrington come on the board, who's in the Bahamas, with very strongly connected with Joe Lewis's niece, who's looking after his share, the trust of Enoch. She's in charge of that with him. So I don't think Charrington's come on the board for nothing. Does that mean that Enoch will invest? Well, they should find some way of investing, because the value of the club they bought has grown exponentially during their time as owners. So you think they would invest money in. But that remains to be seen. Or you'd think, is Levy talking because he knows we have got an investor coming? But then that investor needs to be in and put money in the club before this transfer window closes as well. So, I mean, do I see that happening? No. But I mean, well,
let's just go down the road of us all of a sudden coming out with some money, and we do have, a decent budget. And let's say, I don't know, with the sale of a few players and with some money coming in, let's say it's net 120 million. Let's go with that. What do you think? We'll go back to this question. What do you think we actually need?
I would, if I had 120 million, you're not putting all the money down on a player. If that meant you could put 30 million down on 4 players.
Well, yeah, you probably could, and you probably amortizing the rest. So, I mean, let's say you've got, just based on the squad, based on the fact that we could put the ball in the net for the most part, but we were terrible in defence. But we were terrible in defence through injury, and now we're getting those players back. So, based on the fact that we've got a new coach who apparently gets, the best out of his players, we've got a really solid defence. We've got half decent midfielders in terms of, on his day, I guess, regardless of what I personally think. I've been told Bentancur is world class. We got, Archie Gray, like I said, who Frank wanted. Berrival, who arguably had a standout season last year for who he is and where he came from. Madison is, going to be chomping at the bit probably. I know Kulusevski's out, but what do we, taking into account, we were pretty good at putting the ball in the net. We were terrible in defence, but the defence that's apparently good is coming back. Well, what does this squad actually need?
Well, you have to look at what we're not going to do all the business we need to do in this window.
Right.
So now you've got to try and evaluate who's staying, who's going. I don't think Richarlison's going to go anywhere 2 years left on his contract because of the World Cup next year. So him and Solanke are going. So as much as I'd like to see a striker brought in, I don't see that. But if I had that 120 million, I'm putting money down on Eze, because the rumours I only want 20 million payments.
You want Eze? You think he suits?
I would get Eze. I would get Xavi Simons as well. I would get a right winger.
Okay.
Now, I don't want Semenyo. He doesn't score goals for me. I mean, this is just personal taste. Others might disagree, might think he's the best thing since sliced bread. Not to me. He doesn't score enough goals.
Okay.
Those 3. And I would bring a DM in. I wouldn't be worried about...
Pardon my ignorance. What is Xavi Simons? Is he... What position?
He's with Red Bull. He's with
I know he's with Red Bull. I just don't quite know.
He's a
cam number 10. He's a cam and number 10.
Yeah, he's a 10, but for a couple seasons there, he was also playing on the right side as well too. So he has that functionality to be. It's almost like Dejan Kulusevski, except obviously.
So you're not bringing in, being as you've got Kulusevski on. I mean, sorry, Adrian, just to counter, but you've got Kulusevski, you got Madison. If you want Eze, you're not getting Simmons as well, are you? It's got to be Simmons or Eze, right?
Yeah, but don't forget, we're in the Champions League and we got a minimum.
Yeah.
We've got 38 games, 2 domestic cups, 48 games minimum. That's 48 games, right? So this is a squad game. So you can use them. I mean, like I said, I would bring in Eze, Simmons, a right winger and a DM. I'm not worried about left back because I think we're going to get Kyle Walker-Peters on a free because his contract's up in a few days. And we've got enough defenders if they're organised properly to do a job. They're all right. So that would do me. I mean, that would be good. That would be a really good window.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Nita says, let me just.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, Adrian, go on. I was cutting you off there, mate.
I like Fratesi, but I mean, maybe you could go back. I mean, there are others. There's not really see, it depends. This is why I don't like the numbers like number 6, and people say it's not a number 6, and then you ask them for a definite number 6, and they all want a Rodri. You know what I mean? There ain't any others like him out there,
Or a
right?
Polina.
There are. Yeah.
Well,
I
think we should
Polina
start by
breaks up.
asking.
Yeah.
Well, it's just Anita here says top midfield, DMCM and striker. We got Big B. First time I've seen your name. Big up, mate. Appreciate you coming in. Says left back, left centre half is needed, but we won't buy them. And then there was another one here. Kevin Stanbridge says number 6 striker, left back cover. Rees seconds that comment. Brian Maguire says Simons has an attitude problem. Oh, and Kevin mentions a Harvey Elliott, which I'm not
I'd take
partial to. Steve, you wanted to come in. What are your thoughts? What do you think we need in this squad?
Well,
and what do you think is feasible?
The first question I'm going to ask is how are we going to line up? How are we going to play for the majority of the season? Are we going to be with a back 4? Or are we going to be playing with a back 3 with a midfield 5 with 2
Nita brought that very question. Says, what's Frank's style of play really going to be?
That's exactly right, because if we're going to be playing the majority of our games with a back 3 midfield 5, my question is it going to be 2 10s playing high with the 6 with 2 strikers up top? If that's the case, I can understand the need for a cam. But that being said, you still need another striker in that room, because I mean, are we really going to spend another season wondering if Richarlison's going to stay healthy enough for us to get juice out of those legs? Me personally, it has to start at striker. But that being said, if this is also going to be a situation where it's going to be a majority attacking 3, then we also have to look at both wingers on both sides of the pitch, because I go the other way, Drew. Towards the second half of last season, there was no confidence in this attack being able to get 2 goals a game. If anything, the defense actually ended up playing far better than the attacking third towards the end of last season. And it just goes to show you that for the majority of that time, we were running essentially two 19-year-olds on both right and left side, 2 guys that were extremely raw that couldn't carry the attacking 3 in order to get Solanke involved. And so I would probably assume it's going to be across the attacking 3. If you can figure out the striker position and both wing positions, okay, great. But if not, if you can walk away with a striker and a number 10, I think that would actually be a very productive transfer with it. Because at the end of the day, goals have to be a premium in this window. You're not going to be able to accomplish your goals this season by going large stretches of the season without necessarily consistently putting the ball in the back of the net.
What Frank will demand is every player has got to earn his keep when they're picked to play in this first team. The likes of even Brennan Johnson, who I've warmed to, and even Madison, they're going to have to up their work rate. They're going to have to up their work rate under Frank. I mean, I've only just recently looked at some of his videos and his tactics. I've looked at other people talking about his tactics and all that, and they graft. I mean, that Brentford side graft. I mean, I know a lot of those teams have to graft because that's the way they survive in the league.
It's like the minimum.
Yeah. So that's the minimum requirement. So I noticed when he did his interview, remember when Dragerson and Madison come over him? What did Frank say to Madison? You've been working hard. And I picked up on that straight away. You know what I mean? So, I don't know what you think, Drew.
I mean, he's going to be. I'd like to think he's fit and ready to go. I mean, obviously, I think he mentioned in that clip that he was still sort of in some sort of recovery. But I'd be more concerned with. And Swim Master brings it up here. Anyone got any idea when Koo will be back in training for the first team?
He's already back.
Is he already back?
Yeah, he's already back.
Are you for real?
100%.
They said that injury is going to be 6 to 12 months.
He's back at the training center already. So I've seen him. I've seen him with the. I've seen him training with the players that are already there.
Are you sure it wasn't just an old video?
The guy sure looked like Kulusevski to me, unless he's got a twin brother. Just saying.
No, but I'm just saying, like it was like a video from this week or something. Because and it's not to, I'm not trying to be difficult, but like when they diagnosed that and he went under the knife. I mean, that was like a fracture of his kneecap or something. So I guess they said 6 to 12 months. So I wasn't expecting anything in terms of that for, like, I don't know. No, when was it? April, May, June, July, August, September, October.
I don't know
November.
if he's like, training, but I know that he's been at Hotspur Way doing the things that he's got to do. So
I mean, well, fair play, happy days. I mean, that would be great. I mean, to have everybody kind of, clean slate, everyone ready to go. I mean, that would be fantastic for Frank, because the last thing, I think he's got a monumental task on his hands for a coach that has not.
He isn't fit, and Dragerson isn't fit. Then get left out. Then they'll get left out the Champions League squad for until January.
Right. But I mean, that might. I mean, I guess depending on the group, I was going to say depending on the group, it would be a chance to maybe blood in a couple of youngsters, but that's probably not going to be. You would think that maybe blood in the youngsters would be more down to Carabao Cup potentially and things like that. But Adrian, we are coming up close to obviously almost an hour gone already. We've got 268 people here across multiple platforms. So I just wondered if you want to give a plug to the channel and give a quick shout.
Sure, guys. Those of you watching us on multiple platforms, thank you for your support. It's incredible. We're only just over a year old. We're a fledgling group, but we're doing okay. We're doing fine, mainly with your support. If you like our content, you'll see the little YouTube button down in the bottom right-hand corner. You can subscribe to the channel. We are taking memberships now. If you want to take a membership out, we'd appreciate that. It all helps with the channel. We have got a Facebook group, 14,500 members, if people like Facebook. We've also got a Facebook page with about 300 members because the videos go out on there. We've got Spurs Diehards ex-Twitter group as well. There's 3,200 in that. They're all Spurs fans, verified members in that, because the videos go out there and on the page as well. Yeah, so a big up to all of you in the chat, you regular loyal supporters, that we're gradually gaining more and more loyal supporters. Big up to you all, and especially a big up to those of you that will watch us on playback as well. And on that, and on the fact of our fledgling group, Spurs Diehards are doing a brilliant thing. They've actually put up a little awards competition, and there is a link which I think I've got in the comments somewhere. Right, I think it's right at the top. I'll put it up. And basically, we've been nominated from two groups with a lot of other fantastic podcasters out there, unless it's in the banners, and we're nominating two groups, but go and give us a vote if you like us in both groups, and vote for your other podcasters that you like as well. Because I mean, I hang out in so many podcasts, it's unreal. And even if I can't actually take part or hang about, I will always mute the channel so that it looks like I'm looking at them and it's to help their algorithm and help them going, because we all help each other in the Spurs community. I mean, I do it in Steve's, I do it in Dermot's, I do it in Alan's if he does them, and Sean's and Irish Hotspur and things like that. I was hang out there, even though I've got the time to listen, because you'd never go to sleep if it was on every podcast out there. I think I'm subscribed to about 40. So yeah, I'm a bit of an obsessed Spurs fan, I must admit. Anyway, thanks again. Thanks. Keep your comments coming and your questions in the chat. And back to you, Drew.
Yeah, we do have a couple of comments here that I wanted to pull up. Where are we here? Reese Rig says, do we think after do we think after the Ange sacking, the fan base fans are now desperate for a true project and ride it out for 4+ years? I think we are. Alan, we'll start with you and we'll go back around. Are you in for the long haul with Frank? Like, are you prepared? Not that I think you had pitchforks necessarily for a regime change anyway, but are you kind of here for 3 or 4 years, see where it goes, try and get kind of another Poch era going on?
I mean, it depends. I can admit that
let me phrase it a little bit as well. Like, what are your expectations for next season based on this sort of project and where we're going?
Well, Thomas Frank has Premier League experience. He knows what it is to compete in this league. So I kind of expect a better Premier League season than we had last season, which it shouldn't be that hard. But what I want for the club and what I think will happen are probably two different things. What I want for the club is to get into that Champions League position again. I think anything less than Europa is not acceptable.
Big up, Dente. Great.
I don't know that I would be in for a 3 or 4 year again. You know, if we're just going to build around the youth, I don't know. Again, as a fan, I can be very fickle, and because as fans we have that luxury of being fickle, and you know we can expect and demand success out of our club, considering how large it is, how large that our owners expect it to be. You know, they want it to be a multi-billion-dollar club, but we don't really act like a multi-billion-dollar club. We kind of act like a smaller club that makes a lot of fledgling mistakes, and we don't seem to learn from them. So I don't know that I would be down for, like, if we were in 3-4 years in and we're just middling in the table, you know, 10th or so, and we're not seeing European football, even if we're getting pretty far in cup games, I don't know that I would be a very happy camper.
All right, Steve. Where do you think? All right, where do you think the club should be, and where do you? What do you think the club's expectations are, Frank, versus what your expectations are?
That's a great question. I think my expectations are aligned with the club, really. And again, I go back to the last couple of years. You know, this project has already kicked off for the last couple of years to begin with. Anyways, just because Ange Postecoglou's out the door doesn't mean they're gonna full stop put an end to the project, because obviously the signings that we've seen continue to go along those paths. Doubling down on a youth movement, which is fine. And I said this last year as well too. If you're going to go in that direction, make sure you get a coach that aligns with the ambitions of what you're trying to accomplish, which is trying to get guys like Gray, Bergfall, Tell, Odebear, Johnson improving from their first initial voyage in the Premier League. And so that's my expectation. They had absolutely beautiful debuts, and now it's taking that and doubling down on that and getting those guys punching a little bit above their weight. So by the time year 3 rolls around for those guys, they're going to have at least a couple Premier League seasons under the belt, and they're going to actually understand what it takes to win in this league. And so for me, my expectation is to continue this project. But as Alan just said, there are expectations after the Europa League as well too, because this team proved that even while in a project, they're still capable of hoisting a cup. So that should, those expectations should continue to match. Now, whether they win, a European Cup or a League Cup, that's yet to maintain. But that being said, I still believe that with the players in place currently right now, this team is capable of at least getting a Europa League spot, finishing anywhere between 5th and 8th next year. And to me, those are the expectations. And Alan, you're absolutely right. You can't do worse than 17th. But that being said, the expectation probably has to be making sure that these players that they have brought in, these young players, not only get adjusted and adapt to the Premier League, but those that were around last year, putting them in a position where they can grow from their experiences last year. And getting these guys, and if you remember, all these youngsters are signed up to at least 2029, 2030. So there's a big window for improvement with these guys, and they're going to be around forever. The goal is to take them from where they were and to kick them on into a position where now they know how to win at the Premier League level.
Right. So you would be happy not to necessarily like just qualification for Europe again. Like obviously a cup would be nice, but like just qualification for Europe would be acceptable for you.
I think consistency has to be the end goal, right? I mean, we can't continue to be a club that's going to trend like the stock market. You know what I mean? It has to be some sense of stability. And because this team proved that they can rise above one of the worst years in club history and still walk out the other side of a fire holding up a cup, that they prove that they're capable of beating down adversity. So consistency has to be the goal, and for me, consistency is still achieving European play. Now, whether that's the Champions League or Europa League, that has to be the baseline.
No, fair play. I just want to give a shout out to, I don't know if it's Sir or Essia. He's been, he or she or they have been just popping some messages in the chat. So I just wanted to shout out a couple. Says, despite rumours circulating in the last 32 hours, THFC are not short cash and Arsenal have not agreed to deal with Eze. They have interest and that's it. Essia, you are the local ITK. We appreciate it. And he says, also, my first watch, folks, good channel. I've subscribed. Just make sure if you have debates about Mr. Levy, ensure it's even. And there are people on both sides of the argument. And that's very, very fair. And we do like to try and be level-headed and, call out everybody in equal measure and also, give them pats on the back as necessary. So, I completely agree. El Dente comes in. And El Dente, welcome. Thanks very much for joining, subscribing. Really appreciate it. Says, I absolutely think we could finish top 6 next season. Last season, we finished so low down, but we gave up on the league in February. So, yeah, I mean, obviously 17th is, you would like to think, not going to be difficult to beat. But I guess I'm just I was trying to gauge sort of an idea of the expectation next year. Because like I said earlier, I think Thomas Frank's got a sort of a mammoth task ahead of him. He's never juggled, the Champions League and the Premier League before. He's just had the two bigwigs above him calling out wanting to win the Champions League and the Premier League. We've just won a cup that nobody really sort of, I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily on the agenda. And now I don't know if people's expectations have been wildly blown out of proportion. I don't know if my expectations aren't enough. I just, I'm being told domestic cups aren't really enough, but we've got to win something. But the European Cup we were most likely to be able to win, we're now not in and there's no drop down into. So Frank is walking into a club that are expecting to win the two biggest honours in European football. Fans that really want to win something, but they don't quite know what they want. I'm trying to gauge what would be acceptable next year to be able to continue on this so-called project, because if we're melting down based on the fact that we haven't even signed a player yet or kicked, nobody's even kicked a ball in pre-season, I don't know. It's just a lot going on, Adrian. What were you going to say, mate?
Yeah, there's lots of fans that haven't experienced what I've experienced when we've won trophies over the decades, decades in the past, right? You cannot underestimate.
Big up, mate. Thank you. Sorry, Adrian.
You cannot underestimate the impact that Europa League Cup win will have going into this season.
Right.
You've got kids, even though Damirola J has gone out on loan to Doncaster for a year. You got Scarlett and Mikey Moore. They've picked up winners' medals. You've got Gray, Bergvall picked up winners' medals. They've gained experience. Well, they wouldn't have gained if we had a fit squad, because they would have been drip-fed into the squad. And they're both excellent players. I know Bergvall's looked a bit sexy. All I say is, well, go and look at some videos of Archie Gray, because I tend to look at a lot of videos during the close season and pump them around to you guys as well. And you probably get sick and tired of me sending them to you, right? But I do that when we're linked with players, because I like people to look at them for themselves and form their own opinions. Because if you don't think for yourselves, others will do the thinking for you, right? And it's a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, in life. So this squad of players, without the additions, is going to go into this season with, they're going to ooze confidence. They've shown that a winning mentality. They got across the line. They had to dig in to get across the line as well, right? You take then, I've seen it before in 81. I've seen it before, what it led to. You knew that more success would come. The belief was there in the squad. Once you know how to get across the line, that will impact itself on Premier League games away as well. This team is going to do well next season. We're not going to win the Premier League, but I think top 5 is achievable to get that 5th place on coefficient, because English clubs will do well in Europe. And then you're just looking at a domestic trophy. Well, look, last season, we couldn't have had a harder run, could we? in the League Cup. The teams we played, right? And then we in the other cup we meet Villa, So we played Man City, Man United, Liverpool in one cup. I mean, we could get lucky in the draw and not meet, one of the hardest sides to beat until the semi-final or the final of a cup competition. That can happen. I mean, look at this season's FA Cup final. Palace got there and won it, and good luck to them. We always like to see the underdogs win. So good luck to them. Newcastle won their first trophy since the 60s, I think it was. Since the Fairs Cup or something, about 68 or something like that. So this team is going to, and we will get additions. So I mean, we're all impatient for new additions to be added to the squad, and we're talking quality upgrades, experienced players. I keep banging on about oven-ready players, and they've got to be oven-ready. And we need at least 3 in this window. I'm not against, and Alan went on about kids earlier, I'm not against bringing them in, because you shouldn't read in the fact that we bring kids in there for the first team squad. You have to progress in all areas of the squad, all through the academies everywhere. You have to do that, right? It's just, and these players aren't costing fortunes, right? So yeah. So no, I'm going at this season. I think we're going to have a cracking season. I've got to say that I'm season ticket holder, right? So, and I'll be going to all the home games. So yeah. So anyway, back to you, Drew.
Big B says minimum 7th, so at least we can play in Europe. And I'm totally with this vibe. I'm with the consolidation, basically. I mean, stranger things have happened, I suppose, but I'm really not putting anything on us winning Champions League. If we were to qualify for the Champions League, I think that would be the biggest. Would that not be the biggest turnaround from 17th to 5th, probably in Premier League history? I would think. I think there was the year that Chelsea went from, I think, a lower half table finish up to, maybe, did they go from bottom half the table to winning it? Maybe. Anyway, I don't like talking about them, so I don't care. But yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how far away, because consolidation for me is the key. I mean, bleeding in some youngsters in, I don't want to say lesser competitions, but I think definitely the Carabao Cup. It would be nice to be able to. Here's the thing: it would be nice to be able to get a balance in that. So you obviously don't want to go out in the first round, because then you are absolutely looking at not being able to play any kids. But you want to be able to blood in some kids, maybe having a 6-4 ratio on, 6 first teamers, 4 kids, or that sort of thing. But yeah, I would love for us to at least just be be competitive on 2 of the 3 fronts, right? I mean, your bread and butter is the league, and I think we're all in agreement, Alan. That's got to be your mainstay. Obviously, that's got to be the one we look to put the most effort into, so that we can continue the projection. Because you don't want to be you don't want to be in a situation next year where you don't take the domestic cups too seriously, because you're having to, look after your league and your Champions League, but then you maybe bite off more than you can chew in the Champions League, or the squad still isn't quite big enough or strong enough, and then you falter in the Champions League. You don't get as far as you wanted to. You drop down. You end up mid-table, and now we're in a situation where there's, like we potentially were back end of last season, no Europe, no pool, so you at least need to be 5th to 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. We need a European position. And, I was thinking to myself, why is it that I don't put as much into the cups anymore, the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup? I think because what we're seeing around the world is these big cups where the pot to the winners is so big. And I think the FA Cup, I don't remember how much, it's only a couple of £1 million. Yeah. Carabao Cup is even less than that. And I think it's starting to diminish they're not really players anymore the same way, winning those cups. And I think it has a lot to do with the money that they're not showering out compared to the stuff that's happening like in the
Yeah,
Middle
they've
East.
just they've lost their appeal, right?
They've
You know.
lost the luster, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
fans
they're
like
also
me, fans that have been around, like Adrian, the FA Cup means something because they know where it came from. But fans like me who never saw our team win an FA Cup, you know, it to me, it's like, well, it's just a cup. We don't make much money off of it anyway. We should be going for things where the club can win bigger money so that we can bring in better players.
The game is about glory.
Yeah. The only thing you get
just a quick shout. King Huddle says, good evening. Big up, King Huddle. Good to see you in here, mate. Says, good evening. What I want to see now is a period of ascension in the league, a la the Poch era. And if we achieve that, we should also be good enough to claim maybe a domestic cup or two. So based on that, Adrian, I mean, do you think, I mean, there is an argument that if you can nurture, you know, the Alex Ferguson era when they were winning most things domestically, at least a double every other season, winning or something, a treble. You think, having a squad like that, you nurture it, and if you can nurture a winning mentality, then just like King Hoddle mentions, picking up a domestic cup doesn't become so infrequent. You kind of, when you learn how to win, it becomes easier to persevere in these competitions and at least give yourself more of a chance.
Well, you take the way our fans celebrate the Europa League win, right? 250,000 people turn out on the streets because we haven't won a trophy in years. There's no value financially in the League Cup and FA Cup, but you get in the Europa League. Our fans would take that again. They'd take that night again. We had that there. I mean, like, it was mental. I come back pissed and did a show. I mean, like, everybody on the show was pissed as well that come on as well. And that was just great. It was messy, but it was great. It was Lionel Messi great. You know what I mean? And it was fantastic. So, I mean, and look, if we win the League Cup even, we're having a parade again, and it'll be the same, And like, it might not get the same turnout as the last one because we hadn't won a trophy in X amount of years and a European trophy in 40 odd years. Right. So, and there's more kudos with winning.
Right.
And it's like you're saying about finishing 5th to 7th. We could qualify for the European Champions League this season again. But, I think some fans would rather we finish 6th or 7th and went back in the Europa League again because they think we can win this. This is good. We can win this, right? And because it's a bit like saying, are we ready to win a Champions League? I mean, I've got all the groups up now and waiting for the playoffs before we do a show on it, Drew,
Yeah.
But to see if we draw, and it is quite frightening when you look at the teams that are in it, right? So, yeah. But look, I would take a domestic cup and anyway, 5th, 6th, or 7th, and I think that would be a good season. We know the board.
Would you take? Well, given that, I mean, based on what you've just said there, would you take an FA Cup and 12th?
No,
100%.
No, because look, we wanted what I wanted to see under Ange with 12 games to go. We've got injured players back. We passed the tipping point. We're not going to do anything spectacular. It's going to change fans' opinions of you, the ones that want you out. But what I wanted to see in them last 12 games was growth and improvement in younger players and growth. I see good things in younger players. I see it in Spence, I see it in Bergvall, I see it in Gray, right? But our league form didn't improve at all. So this season, I want to see a vast improvement in our league form this season. And I actually believe we will see that because I just think we will add to the squad. And I think the squad's matured a bit better. We're probably still the youngest squad in the Premier League, right? So, and I just think they will be oozing with confidence. You think some players never get a medal in their life, and we got 17-year-old and 18-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids that have got a winner's medal. What must that do for them? Their psychology. What must it do for them as individuals? I mean. You'd want to build on that achievement. You'd have confidence to know we can do this, we can win. Your head's not likely to drop when things get difficult in the game.
But that's the reasoning why the cup competitions are actually that much more important, because you talk about psychological advantages. Learning how to win in cup competitions are the building blocks to exactly what you're trying to build, but also it's a contingency plan in case things go awry in the season. Because at the very least, if you win the FA Cup, you're back in Europa League. So it's that's why me personally, I actually put a lot of stock in the cup competitions, because it achieves everything that you just alluded to. Plus, it gives you a backup plan in case we do have another injury crisis where we are missing 5 to 9 first team players, and we're resorting back to youth again for the second straight season. At least you have something in your back pocket that it still rewards you for winning a competition. The cups shouldn't. That's the interesting, Drew. You talk about consolidation, and while I do agree with you on some sense, you can't overlook the value of actually winning a domestic cup. You can't overlook it.
Well, I think, Daniel 90, big up Daniel, says it depends if that 12 at least has a decent home form in there. I would take an FA Cup and 12. Yeah. And I just think, as far as from a consolidation point of view, I was kind of surprised that Adrian said he wouldn't take that, because for me, building on what we've built on, obviously 17th to 12th, no, it's not amazing, but if you can sneak an FA Cup win in there, you've essentially kind of done the same thing that you did last year, in that you've achieved a goal because you've qualified for Europe again. So I guess based on this, like, if we could get, I'm kind of with Daniel on it, if we could get a decent run of form, especially at home, would it be nice to do the qualification to the Champions League? Yes. Would I think it kind of blow things out of proportion a little bit? Potentially. Would I prefer maybe to see? I think I would rather see us do a cup and 12, because I think if you start winning silverware more often, I think that leads more to players. I think you're more likely to pull players than if you don't win, but if you finish higher in the league. Does that make?
Was that Crystal Palace's season last season? Because they won the FA Cup, and I think they came in at about 12.
That's exactly right.
Would you take?
Not for me.
Still not having it.
I'm doing the maths now, so I know you three disagree with me, which is fair enough, right?
No,
mate. It's fine. We're talking 6 games to win an FA Cup. 7 to win the League Cup, because you got a 2-legged semi-final, right? Against 38 Premier League games after a season we had, which is shocking in the league, and not to improve. If we finish 12th and won a League Cup or an FA Cup, I think Frank would be under serious pressure. Pressure. Yeah. Right. So no. Look, even with the team we got, we're more than capable of finishing higher than 12th.
Paul Brown, sorry, Steve, just quick. Paul Brown says, just throw the cat amongst the pigeons. We sacked the very manager that lived and expressed the THFC's motto. Just funny. Yeah. And Daniel says as well, I think one home win in 5 months. One home win in 5 months. I think improving that for a start to the first season is a must, more than actual league position at the moment. And then he comes in again. I think we need top 6 instead of a cup. Players want to be in the top end of the table. It will help our future recruitment and build a better and better squad. Steve?
I was just going to point out, when you look at the upcoming schedule from August to the end of October, the schedule doesn't even pick up until November, and that's where the degree of difficulty starts picking up. So just based on the calendar, I just don't think we're going to finish 12th. I just don't see it as going to be a situation where we're going to drop some of these games. Me personally, I think we put ourselves in a position to actually finish in that 5th to 8th spot. Me personally, just looking at how the season starts, I just don't see us being in a position where we'll finish 12th regardless.
We went from to Darius to didgeridoo to daring to get didgeridoo-dumped.
We've got some tour games coming up, because being, as you just mentioned, the beginning of the season there, I know we have the Reading Spurs 19th of July tour games.
They're both 3 o'clock kickoffs and home games, then ones in the UK.
Nice. We've got the Arsenal, we've got Bayern Munich on the tour. South Korea, Newcastle K-League teams, and then we've got the Spurs PSG at the Udinese Stadium. How does anybody know? Steve, you'll probably know, or Alan, if you've both been watching the FIFA Club World Cup. PSG, they qualified, gone through, they did done, gone home.
They they play Inter Miami on Sunday as the knockout round starts. So yeah, for sure. They've
so there's a chance that their first teamers, I mean, still playing quite a lot of football, whereas our guys are getting recovery. So there's still every chance that Thomas Frank starts the season with a cup, that would go even more to the confidence of the players, right? If they can go out there, put on a good performance against PSG and win that, regardless of the team that PSG put out. Yeah.
Again, you would have thought the Premier League again, right, who have got no confidence in whatsoever, would at least put the Burnley games on a Saturday after this. Why it couldn't be played on the Sunday, I don't know. Right, give us an extra day's rest after playing the Super Cup. Right, I don't know why it can't be done there. Yeah, so like it's just, I mean, it's like some of them fixtures. I mean, I look through them. We've got 2 night games against Newcastle, right? So our fans have got to travel up there for an 8 o'clock kickoff, and their fans have got to travel to us for an 8 o'clock kickoff. I mean, like, you couldn't make the stupidity up, could you? You just couldn't make it up. At least at Christmas, we're not leaving London. We're staying at home. We've got an away game against a London team, or we've got, I think Sunderland are coming to us, which is ridiculous. They're travelling down to us at Christmas. Come on, you've got computer algorithms. You can stop this.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
I'm sure it'll probably get to the point you would, I don't know, maybe not, but I'm guessing maybe some of those fixtures will also depend on cup fixtures as well. So I don't know. Logic may end up hopefully dictating things, and they may come to their senses. We shall see. See. As far as there was something else that I wanted to. I mean, obviously, we touched on Kota Takai, the young Japanese centre back. I think 23? Was he 23, 24?
He's 20.
He's got 4,
is he just 20?
He's got 4 international caps.
Oh, that's why I'm maybe getting boring.
He's captain of his team in Japan. He's a leader, and he got the Japanese Young Player of the Year award as well.
He's going to walk right into the first team, isn't he?
Look, we don't know. He looks good. It's like the under-21s for a joy for me to watch when I watched every game they played last season when they swept the ball with everything, right? But that's at that level. That's at the J-League level. I'm not saying the J-League's a poor league at all, but we don't know. I mean, like, you have to take a punt on these players. And the money we're paying for them, like Yang Min Hook, is peanuts to what we pay for other players. Yeah. So those costs, they're worth a punt. So he'll either make it or he won't. You know, I mean, I don't know. I went and watched the video of him. Yeah, all right, it looks good. But I don't know, you know.
Did he go into, as far as, I mean, any European stuff and the squad thing, is he just classed as, is it the same sort of B League or the B team? Is he just classed?
He can't go on the B list because he hasn't been at our academy for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
That's why Graham.
So likely he's not going to be in.
Go on the B list. No.
All right, cool.
So
well, that brings me on to a certain Mr. Carl Walker-Peters. There's been stuff circling around that, obviously being club trained and homegrown, he might be worth adding back to the squad because of the Champions League complications. In my head, as I've written here, that's technically 3 right backs and no cover for the left side. And I know Jed Spencer's done a great job over there with Udogie, but you technically would have 1 left back and 3 right backs on the book. Would Sirkin, who is also...
Toka can play at right back as well.
Oh, can he? Good to know. But would Sirkin, who we had previously in the academy, who's been doing well at Sunderland, would he maybe not be a better shout in this instance, being as he can play on the left? And that was just something that I was wondering earlier on.
He's 23 now, and he's going to cost a fee. So he could cost us 20 to 30 million if Sunderland dug their heels in. Whereas Walker Peters is going to cost nothing. He's 28, 29 experienced. And Walker Peters can play on the left. At Spurs in the academy level, when they won the Mini World Cup, and he was part of that team when the England side won that, he always played at left back. He always played at left back, even though he's right-footed. So he can play on the left, which makes him. He can play on the right as well, which makes him. And he's used to playing there. It's not like you're trying to like stick him in there to try and make it work like we do with players in the past. I mean, I would take him just on that, not because I think he's an upgrade at the age of 28, 29, but because he'll allow us another foreign player in the squad. So instead of being down to a 23 squad for the Champions, 22-man squad, we had 23 last year because we had Whiteman as a goalkeeper. So we go down to a 22-man squad at the moment, but you bring Walker Peters in, you've got that extra foreign player. So now we'll have 14 foreign players instead of 17. We're still going to be short, and we're just going to have to bite the bullet on that until our academy players, and I don't know what years all the youngsters have done, right, have got their 3 years, because you've got to be with the academy 3 years. 4 of you have got to be with the academy 3 years, so you can have that full complement of 17 foreign players. It's different for the Premier League, right? But it's just the way the rules are. So, yeah. So I think we will get. I think he might be the first signing next week, Walker Peters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Audio, since KWP has probably played more career games left back than Sirkin as well.
But my question is, when was the last time Kyle Walker Peters had a regular string at left back? More importantly, at the left wing back position. At least with Jens Best, we know we have a sample size of him playing on the left hand side and him doing an absolutely dynamite job.
Well, maybe Cole Walker Peters is cover for Porro then, right?
That's exactly right. I would just assume that, as Adrian just alluded to, Sunderland is probably going to charge a pretty penny, especially now that they've moved up to the Premier League. I would probably assume that you're probably going to want to keep the 20 mil in the back pocket, knowing that Jed Spence actually can perform at that left back. Left back.
I agree. I agree, Steve. Well, we need that money for other positions, don't we? More forward positions. So if we don't have to spend money at the back, and we've got enough defenders, we've got 9 centre backs for total now, right? If you include the kids, right? And we know that Gray can play at fullback. We know that Spence can play both sides as well. We're not, although we could do with upgrades in those areas, they're not. I don't see them being prioritised in this transfer window. Right. I think you're looking next summer how we finish, where we finish, and then we might.
What do we think about kids from the academy coming in and making any kind of impact? I mean, I know Damola Ajay has gone out on loan to Doncaster.
Yeah,
and I know that Ryan Mason is probably going to be looking at maybe taking a couple of players out. But do you see any of these kids coming in? And Alan, not heard from you. You see any of these kids coming in and having any kind of impact? I mean, for me, possibly the likes of. I mean, I'd really like to see Donnelly in a shout for like the 10 rotation. Because I think if Kulusevski is going to be back, maybe potentially November, December, if we've already got, James Maddison obviously does a job in there. Would you think, let's say, Eze or not, or maybe another 10 or not, you still think there's maybe room for Donnelly to come back and get a shout? Or you think there's a chance he says, depending on the amount of minutes I get, I'd maybe like to go out on another loan because I got a lot of minutes when I was on loan and that makes me better. I mean, thoughts on any of these ones?
I mean, I'd like to see Vuskovic possibly getting in. He's a very big kid. He's very well thought of. I know wherever he's gone, and I think he can be a player. I've watched the videos that Adrian sends, and he seems like a kind of player that I would like to get experience in the Premier League. I like Jamie Donnelly. I like Alfie Dorrington. I like Will Lancashire. I mean, Will Lancashire is a good goal scorer when he has the opportunity and he hasn't red carded himself. But I think some of these players, Lancashire, I think will probably go out on loan. I think Dorrington will probably go out on loan. I think Phillips. A lot of these guys. Although, how many can we put out on loan? 6. I think that's
No, you can loan as many players as you like, but in the Premier League, you can only bring in 2 loan players.
Mm.
In the Championship, they can loan as many as they want.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure how many from each club though, so they couldn't come to us and take 6. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure about the Championship. If someone knows in the chat, and I always hunt for information, I'll find out. But I mean, like, yeah,
I didn't think you could loan any more. Adrian, I thought that the Premier League changed that because of the whole scenario with Chelsea. I thought you could only loan out like 7 or 8 players now, and they were reducing it. No, hang on, you guys.
I don't know unless someone Googles it or gets it.
I'm gonna have a little. I'm gonna have a little Google. Hang on a second.
I know you can only bring 2 in on loan at your own club, I think, and there is an option whereby if you were struck down with goalkeeperitis and you lost your goalkeepers, you can bring a goalkeeper in as an emergency, right? So that's about it. Championship clubs, I think the rules is they can loan as many as they like, but I don't know if there's a rule about how many players we let go out on loan. If there is a rule for doing that, I'm all for it. If it means that clubs like Chelsea or even us aren't parking players just to stop other clubs from getting them and getting their experience. The issue I've got with the squad here is not that I don't want to see Vuskovic come in a squad and Donnelly and Scarlett Lancashire as spare strikers, is how much game time they're going to get. If they're not going to get the game time and develop, like Divine, when the new, was it Plymouth or Portsmouth, he was there with Phillips, and they sacked the manager, and then he wasn't fancied, and he didn't get the game time. To me, this is something we've got to put in our contracts when we loan these players out, right? If you ain't playing and you change your manager, we get the option of bringing them back. This is where this club's been so unprofessional in so many areas I could go down on, right? And also there should be some incentive with these players that if you're out on loan, if you give them 90 minutes, we'll pay the wages for the 90 minutes because you've played them. But if not, you pay. You've got to find some financial way of incentivizing the loan club from playing the players. I mean, Scarlett's a good striker. I mean, fans slag him off because they ain't seen him. I see him as a 17-year-old, right? He's 20 now. Every time he goes away with Young England, he scores a goal virtually, right? He went to Oxford, he got 4 goals in 20 games. He was at Ipswich last year, and McKenna, who probably knows him from Spurs, never played him. But Ipswich, the year before last, but Ipswich got promoted. So maybe he was justified in not playing him. But we don't want to park players in places where they're not going to get game time. Then you get someone like George Abbott, who was captain of the under-18s, goes straight into the under-21s, is captain there. I don't know if he's 19 now. He goes to Notts County as a midfielder come DM and can slot in the back 4 and has absolutely smashed it. Now, I'd like him looked at, especially if people have complained about a midfield. But then again, you've got Graham Bergvall to try and find midfield berths in that slot, apart from Madison Kulu and anyone else you're bringing in. And if you're keeping Sarr as well and Basuma's going, and that's without bringing them in, look, if they're not going to get sufficient game time, I mean, this is what Frank's got to sort out, then get them out on loan. Even Vuskovic, I would love Vuskovic to come in. What I've seen him is, I think he's a generational talent at his age. I haven't seen a defender like that ever, I don't think, at that age that's that good. Right, and don't get me wrong, Phillips and Dorrington are good. Dorrington's technically better; he's better on the ball. But all 3 of those players, they're 6'4", one of them 6'5" units. They're all units. They can all move the ball. They're good on the ball. We're way past the days when you had 2 donkeys at centre backs that were just good at heading the ball and kicking lumps out of players. Those days are gone. Well, I mean,
Dorrington just won a cup with Aberdeen as well, didn't he? Didn't he just pick up the Scottish Cup? Yeah.
I would think that now that Vuskovic and Takai are through the door, I would probably think that spells the end for Ashley Phillips and Dorrington being in that rotation in the first team. But Jamie Donnelly is going to be the interesting one, right? Because of the lack of depth at the 10, right? Which is why the Eze talks matter, because we're not going to have Kulusevski for a while. And so as of right now, your 2 10s are Jamie Donnelly and James Maddison, right? So the question really becomes, does anyone here believe that Donnelly's ready to actually play at the Premier League level right now?
We don't know.
That's a big if.
Genuinely,
right?
we genuinely just don't know, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, granted, you still need the depth at the 10 position. But that being said, outside of Vuskovic, Takai, and Donnelly, I would probably assume that Lakeshire Scarlet, Aloisi, and Keeley are probably going to go out on loan. I don't know, man. There's going to have to be concessions with some of these guys, understanding that they've been on loan.
And we haven't even mentioned Mikey Moore yet either.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be with the squad. There's no question about it. He's not going anywhere. He's 18 in August and going to get a new contract, right? Keeley kept 16 or 17 clean sheets with Donnelly at Orient last year. Yeah. Look, I haven't seen as much as Keeley as I see of Gunter. And Gunter, to me, when we're not short of good goalkeepers coming through, Gunter, to me, I just think he's an excellent goalkeeper. Went out of Weldstone, like a non-league club.
Yeah, but, the acquisition of...
I like it. But the Phillips one is interesting because Frank, again, you can tell he looks at young players. Maybe we got Phillips for about 2 or 3 million off of Blackburn, it was, right? Now, Frank's turned around and said he likes Phillips. And Phillips had a good season at Stoke, who did poor, which, like, if you get to learn to defend when you're in a poor side, right? So who knows with Phillips? I mean, like, I don't know. He might come in and Vasquez might go on.
But there has to be some concessions, right? Considering that the club went outside their academy to bring in Vuskovic and Takai. To me, it signals that there may not necessarily be a lot of faith in Phillips and Dorrington long term at the club, right? So that there has to be some concessions, right? And because Phillips did come off a loan, there's a good possibility that you're going to be able to turn that into some profit. That's the pros and cons that you actually have to weigh. Because right now, you're absolutely right. We have 9 center backs, and we're not going to carry 9 into the season. So if you're at most we're carrying 7 at most, and it's probably going to be something like 6.
I think it's easier to keep Mikey Moore because he's in an attacking position. He can play anywhere in a front 6 as far as I'm concerned, right? And it's easy to bring Donnelly and Devine in both 10s and bowlers, right? Because
Devine's going to be a part
there is less risk with those players than you bring a defender in and he screws up. If someone loses the ball in midfield, it's not a disaster. If Mikey Moore misses a chance in front of goal, it's not a disaster. You can always sub them. The point is, how much are you going to hinder these players' development if you bring them in and they're sitting on the bench all the time? And then when they're on the bench a few times, you're just putting them back in the under-21s to get a game in their legs, which won't help their progression because the level's lower, much lower, right? So, I mean, look, the manager's going to have to make some hard choices regarding these youngsters. I think maybe a few will catch his eye, the way he likes to play.
Maybe.
I could see Mikey Moore will definitely be in the squad. He won't be loaned out.
I can't see Keeley just because of the acquisition of Tony Kinski and the $12 million that they invested in him, right? Unless Keeley comes into camp and blows Kinski out of the water, the reality is that that $12 million investment means they're financially tied to his development. So regardless
Austin's not awful.
Yeah.
Austin's not awful. He did okay.
But Keeley's path is blocked, though. That's my point. His path right now is blocked.
You put anything in the rumors that we're potentially looking for a new first team keeper and Vicario might be? You think there's anything to that? I know Milan were potentially, or I don't know. I just don't know what to believe with these.
First of all, who is out there that's better? And 2, if you're looking at another foreign goalkeeper, you haven't got a clue how well he's going to do in the Premier League, right? You just don't know.
The question really is who's out there that's better that we can get at the price that we want to get him at.
Exactly.
That's better than Vicario right now. The answer is
who's on a free transfer.
Right. Swim Master guys has actually just reminded me that I had a couple of starred messages from him because I wanted to bring up a couple of points. Says, isn't Fabio Paratici back with us Tuesday, 1st of July? Frank surely wants time with the players to assess properly. I think transfers will come later. We also need to get rid of players too. Right. So who who are the two, or who would be the 2-3 players that you would realistically be looking to? Because I know we've been talking about potential players coming in. Who are we realistically looking at that is going to be moving on? I mean, we touched on Richarlison. I'm having a hard time working out, based on his fitness, whether anybody would be prepared to take a chance on him, whether he would risk it, as we've mentioned, being the World Cup coming up. I know Basuma is always a name that's mentioned. Alan, who would you? Sonny is another one that has been sort of touted as maybe finally giving the Saudi thing a go. So yeah, Alan, who do you think, or who would you like to maybe see moved on so that we've got space for Audio, Basuma, Richie, and Son?
Yeah.
Who would you like to see moved on?
I could see Brian Hill moving on. I think Brian Hill is wanted by, I forget the club that he was at. Was he at Fiorentina?
Girona.
Girona. So I know they were. I don't know if they wanted him, but I think we can try to make a deal there. I think Menor Solomon. I think Leeds wants him very badly, and I think we could get like 20 million for him. You know, do I want a player that plays like him? Sure, but I think if we have a player that someone wants and they want to pay real money, like 20 million for him, I say it's time to sell. So Menor Solomon, Brian Hill,
Please.
Alejo Valise. I would sell Brennan Johnson, maybe controversially. I know he was our highest goal scorer, but Harry Kane we sold, he was our highest goal scorer and arguably a much better goal scorer. And I feel like we can upgrade on someone like it, because if we had that position open where it's like we need a big goal scorer, we just came off of, we're in a good position, right? We're in Champions League position. We just won the Europa League. So we could find, hopefully, that's what I would like to see, like a real goal scorer, someone that we can depend on, which is something we haven't had. We didn't have last season. We didn't have someone we could depend on. You don't have your Mo Salah or someone who comes in clutch. We had Brennan Johnson, who luckily, if he was in the right spot, would put it in.
Wow! Luckily, if he was in the right spot, wow!
Well, that's how I saw it.
Wow!
Alan, I think you're missing
cannot catch a break.
I think you're missing the point that Brennan Johnson. We snatched Brennan Johnson from the jaws of Brentford. Frank likes him. Frank likes him. He's not, and his contract to 2029. I've got it up here, right? So he's Johnson's not going anywhere. But we've mentioned 6, right? And if Sonny went, I mean, Sonny, he's the one. Like we're all. Let's face it, we are emotionally attached to Sonny. He's been a club legend, 4 or 5 goal scorer. He may want to stay to have a crack at the Champions League, or he might think job done with the Europa League, I'll go and take some money that he could have took before. He's not short of money, is he? But there's no way he's going before we go out to Korea on a pre-season tour. That's for sure.
I feel like if we were absolutely, like, if we were in a position, like if we were the team that was going again, I could see Sonny sticking around. Like if he was like, yeah, we could do this. We got a chance at the Premier League, or we got a chance at the Champions League. There's no way you're getting me out of here. But I think he's looking at it, and I think he's probably clever enough not to want to tarnish the relationship. I think he can maybe understand, again, especially with Tell coming in, especially with the way Odegaard. I know somebody mentioned in the chat earlier that he played on the right for France the other day. And I guess that's the under-21, right? Tell on the left, Odegaard on the right. But then I know they can also both flip over as well and do the reverse.
Correct.
So and then they can, so they can both play left. So I just think maybe it's the right time all round, and it's the best thing, right? He's lifted the cup. Go, I mean, you'll forever be a legend.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's not going to get any better for him here.
Yeah, then there's the other angle, isn't it? His experience would be invaluable next season because we're going to be in the Champions League as well. So
that's true.
And he hasn't got to start every game, and he's still. There's no argument at least he's still the best finisher at the club with both feet. He's still the best finisher. So
it all depends.
I mean,
it all depends on it all depends on if he was really playing injured last season. But I will say this: that outside of the ones that Alan just mentioned, I would also add Radu Dragic to that list as well too. So there has to be a real discussion about whether or not he's actually capable and equipped to actually handle the rigors of the Premier League. From what we've seen so far, Radu Dragic cannot handle the responsibility of playing on this team. And that being said, if you're able to get to back to that 20 million, just like Manor Solomon, it's gonna be beneficial for that club to be able to recapture some of that money back. 100%.
Could he not handle the Premier League, or could he not handle Ange's high line?
I don't think he could handle.
Or is the high line a myth?
Yeah.
I mean, do my fellow cynics here? Do you think that we activated Son's year's extension clause because as a safeguard in case we can't get the strikers in or the striker in the transfer window, so we activated it anyway?
No, I just don't think they wanted to let him go on a free.
Yeah. That's a good part. Yeah. You're keeping the cynicism lever going. Yeah, you're keeping it going.
Yeah, they're not going to let Sonny go on a free.
Yeah. So
no, not when certainly not when Saudi can offer at least 30-40 million. You think? I think there's 2 or 3 clubs out there.
I think 3 clubs have offered. The rumored offer is 25 to 30 million. But you would take 25 because it's like money for nothing, basically.
Well, I think the one thing you'll get with the Saudi clubs, my understanding, what I think is that they'll all agree a price that they think that they should pay, and I don't think it's not going to be a situation where you get into a bidding war. I don't think with the 3. I think they agree a price, and then they're like, well, we're going to, he gets to choose, and we're not going to go above that. Be very respectful. I could be completely wrong, but I thought I read somewhere that they'll sort of come to an agreement, 35-40 million. And they won't be pushed into. I think one of the things is because they won't be. They don't want to be taken for a ride just because they think they've got, just because they have got astronomical amounts of money. So, yeah, I don't know. Swinmaster says, I don't think Sonny's lost. Sorry, Adrian.
I think it'd be something like 25 million with an add-on of 1,000 barrels of oil.
Swimmaster says, I don't think Sonny lost it. I genuinely think he was knackered under Ange and playing through injuries. Drew, you start my question. How much are we making? Oh, that one as well. Sorry, my bad. Oh, yeah, here it is. Sorry. Oh, hang on. And I bloody lost it. Christ. I will find it, Swimmaster. Audio also says, where's the Irish striker coming in? He's meant to be part of the first team too.
January.
Mason Media.
He doesn't come in the summer.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about during
the January window, he'll be coming into the first team. Mason Melia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. It says the non-football revenue the club has taken with the concerts, boxing, etc. during the last year. Anyone got any idea of the profit from those that is meant to go into the football team?
Well, money from games at home, which is about 6 million a game, and they say like about millions earned on beer and food, right? So on these, and like my ticket's about £70 a game, but on these concerts, if they're full houses, it's more because like you're paying Beyonce, what you're paying £100 a ticket or more.
Probably more. I mean, if it's anything like some of the tickets over here, some of the prices are absolutely astronomical. Like in the thousands.
They lease the stadium, so they pay for the hire of the stadium. They must have to pay for all the stewarding and policing.
Yeah, and then also the NFL tickets.
So they get the money for the ticket sales, and I think Spurs take money for the food and beer that's sold, which is all goes up another 50% when we got American football there. It's nothing like ripping off Americans. You know what I mean? It's good fun, right?
We're terrible.
So, I think it's one of those. It's one of those things, right? Where I think there's a portion of people that maybe thought when the stadium was going to be the game changer, the revenue increase from it. I think there wasn't
Then it'd be advertising as well.
there wasn't the understanding that I thought it was going to be like 100% profit, and there wasn't the understanding maybe that we were gonna, or there was gonna have to be outlay, even though the likes of Beyonce hire the stadium. Well, now we've got to hire the people to then be there to steward the stadium.
Yeah,
when, there's the outlay with the income. So there was maybe this idea that it was just going to be a huge amount of money, when in actual fact, I think it just enables us. I mean, you've mentioned it time and time again, Adrian, the amount of money that we've spent since the stadium opened. I think the whole game changer thing, I think it's, I don't think that's the right way of putting it. I think it just put us in a position not to be as far behind the top 5 as we already are. It would have been, if we hadn't done it, 17th would be more of a reality than an anomaly, right? So I think it's just enabled us to, although people, and even, as I'm saying the words, have a hard time sort of seeing it sometimes, because especially of the way that the transfer market side and the way that we're talking about it, it's hard to see sometimes.
When you look at groups like the Rolling Stones, who go on their like just before a die tour, right? When they go on their tour, right, and they make 160 million quid on a tour, and they really need the money. You know what I mean? They need it for wrinkle cream and things like that. So I mean, but if you're a star and you're coming to Spurs, what are you actually bringing? Well, basically, you're bringing an audience. That's all. So you've got the ticket sales because you've got that audience. All your expenses have to come out of that ticket sales. You don't get nothing else out of the stadium. Even the advertising Spurs probably get. There'll be different advertising. When the American football's there's different sponsors inside the stadium. You see them all going up, right? So you're the star. You're guaranteed what you make on your tickets. So this is why I reckon these tickets are like 100 to 350 to 400 or 500 quid each, because you've always got that. You've got that inner circle right close to the stage where people stay, the pit or whatever they call it, at concerts and whatever. You've got all them in there, haven't you? And so I think the likes of Beyonce, she's going to cream up anyway, right? I think you're taking more than 6 million, right, for these. Or she's taking what she's getting on ticket sales would be, if it was Spurs match, would probably about 5 mil. She might be 10 mil for a night.
I mean, it's a really interesting question. It would be nice to know. I'm sure there's probably some financials that would probably list out.
I thought I heard that Tottenham get like guaranteed like $60 million with that NFL deal for having a couple games played there.
It's a 10-year deal, isn't it? I don't know if it's been extended. It was a 10-year deal for 2 games a year for 10 years.
Yeah, I thought it was like guaranteed like 60 million a year. I don't know.
Big up to Peter Guys, who's popped in. He's gifted 5 Spurs Diehard memberships. So let me see if I can maybe pull up who they have gone to. If you can, regards Daniel Coys, Spotlight on Spurs, Roundtable Talk, Jason T, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And someone else, but I can't see who it is. So whoever received those, be sure to give Peter a big old shout. We really appreciate that, Peter. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
As in, Milton Nebrega says, I see Metallica in Oz like 15 years ago. My ticket was $775, and that was 15
What's that in real money, though? What's that in real money, though?
Oh, come on now. That's well off. That is
paid $775 to see Metallica. Good Lord, man. That's
Australian dollars, though, isn't it?
Right.
Well, I don't even know.
Ryan says big up to Peter for always gifting memberships. That's really nice of you. Got Jacob Walraven in here. Says Tamino gonna make telling to Neymar just say yes. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Jacob's in there. He's normally out there somewhere wreaking havoc among the Spurs community.
Big up. Thank you for the support.
Big up from wreaking havoc, right?
Absolutely. Well, we've almost we have been pretty much going for a couple of hours here. I mean, I think it's safe to say that there's a few more days till 1st of July. you would hope that there would be far more moves at that point. But I still think it's going to be a slow burn. We've still got, a couple of days before the first team come back. Tamino, as he's been called,
it'll be the latter part of next week. They're talking about Friday or something, players coming back.
Right.
There's a few there that are injured, but I mean, they won't be coming back. So when the players come back from all clubs, then like towards the end of next week, the transfer window will be going absolutely nuts. Right. Yeah. So we've got a show on the Tuesday, which is the first. Awesome. I never expect anything to happen at weekends because, like, no one does nothing at weekends. Like, they don't announce players or parade them unless there's a video coming out because a player's been signed on the Friday or whatever, and they put one out on a Saturday. Nothing happens on weekends. That's why we're not doing Sunday shows at the moment. We normally, for those of you who are on all these platforms watching us, which is great because there's 340 of you watching us, right? We do during the season or when the pre-season games start and we got matches, we go out Tuesdays, Fridays and Sundays now at 10 o'clock UK, BST at the moment it is, right? Because the clocks do change. It does alter things slightly, Easter time and that. Yeah. Like I say, we've got a Facebook group, Spurs Diehards there. You can find us. We've got a Facebook page, again, Spurs Diehards. We've got a Twitter account, Spurs Diehards, 3,200 in there. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, we can't see it, the little red subscribe button. We'd be grateful if you subscribe to the channel. We are also, you can find us here because them wonderful boys at Spurs Kings, Marlon and Ash, have set up an awards competition for podcasters out there. And we've been nominated for 2 awards. It's a bit of fun, but get over there. Please give us a vote. Vote for the others as well. I mean, I have a vote for 30 in every group. So, get over there and vote because they put the effort to do this. They do run a fantastic show, Ash and Marlon. Right? So get over there and vote. Get your votes in. Thank you for all your questions in the chat. Thank you for your loyal support. We see loads of regulars coming back now, which is what we want. We're only a year old. We're a fledgling group. And we pride ourselves on being mature and sensible. Take that as you will.
Yeah, and all the gifted memberships is fantastic, Peter. We really thank you for helping to build the community. And who knows, if we get enough, maybe we'll see about doing some member content, or maybe have a member come on and join us or something like that, and we can put some questions to them. So that'd be fantastic. Just want to give a huge shout out to all the regulars that came in. Just the last few messages here from El Dante says, good chat tonight all. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And Nita, the game changer is billions in football, not millions. Chris Brown bought mega bucks, so the Bucks with concerts to Hotspur. I mean, hopefully at least that sort of money will keep the lights on at least. Brilliant. Jacob again here says big up, hit the like, Charlotte's free. Thank you very much, sir. Round table saying it's already done. Steve, what have you got going on? I got your banner here at Stateside Footy 27. Tell us what you got planned for the weekend and the foreseeable future.
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock Eastern U.S. time, 12 o'clock UK time. It is the Saturday morning Spurs conversation. And tomorrow morning, we are talking about the continued path of the youth movement. And we will dive into the concerted effort that Tottenham Hotspur has with building a core of youth players that's been going on for a few years now. And that's, again, tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock UK time. And then on Sunday, man, we have a watch-along doubleheader. At 12 o'clock, it is the Club World Cup, Inter Miami versus PSG. And then later that night at 7 o'clock, it is the grand finale. It is CONCACAF Gold Cup time. Quarterfinal action, the U.S. men's national team versus Costa Rica, as the U.S. men's national team continue to play their way into a final. So first step is Costa Rica, the next step is Canada, then Mexico, and then the world. So U.S. men's national team will take over the world. Believe it.
All right. Well, I love the enthusiasm. Alan, what we got going on at Team Tottenham Go?
I would love to say I have a lot of stuff, but work has been in the way.
Yeah.
Every time I sit down,
Such is life.
Yeah, such is life. I hope to get stuff going, but we'll see how work is.
No, fair play. Well, I want to say thank you once again. I want to say thanks to the regulars that have joined us. I want to say thanks to the 336 of you across all the platforms and everybody else who's been dipping in and out. It's been truly appreciated. We will see you next week. Adrian, you'll see everybody again on, did you say Tuesday? All righty. Yeah. And
if anything breaks, we'll do a Sunday show, but I'm expecting to break.
There's lots of broken stuff, mate. I'll tell you that.
Broken hearts, so only broken hearts.
Right. Just general housekeeping. Remember to smash the like on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm going to leave you with probably another one of these Adrian outros. Fantastic. Have a good one. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.